At the family party, my parents announced, "We're giving all $2.5 million to your brother. My name is Ryan." They raised their glasses as if in a grand celebration, but to me, it felt like a solemn funeral. At the head of the table, my father announced, his voice resonant with pride, "We've decided to gift our entire estate, $2.5 million to our son Jacob." A torrent of applause, laughter, and clinking glasses followed, then a sudden hush. Every head turned to me. My mother's smile contracted into a chilling sneer. "As for you," she said, her eyes narrowing, "you're a failure. You can handle your own life." The air shifted, a searing ache ignited in my chest, but I did not flinch. I did not argue. I simply sat perfectly still, hands folded, allowing their condemnation to settle heavily. Then my grandmother rose slowly and deliberately. Her voice cut through the room now. She said, "It's my turn." No one could have predicted what came next. I once believed in them, my parents. As a child, I hung on their every word, thinking their approval was love. But love, I eventually learned, was conditional. Jacob was their golden child, the chosen one. Perfect grades, a perfect job, a perfect smile for family photos. I was the shadow, the afterthought. No matter what I accomplished, it was never enough. When I launched my own small business, they dismissed it in our hometown of Los Angeles. When I faced struggles and emerged stronger, they ignored it. All the while Jacob subsisted on their handouts, his failures polished into convenient excuses. I thought I'd grown numb until that night, until they stood there in front of everyone and formally carved me out of the family with one cruel sentence. I should have been utterly destroyed. But humiliation has a strange effect. It provides perfect clarity. In their eyes, Jacob was impeccable, but I knew of the cracks. I noticed the missed payments on his shiny new car, the unopened bills on his kitchen counter, the hushed arguments between him and his fiancée about investments gone wrong, and then the irrefutable evidence: a late-night call from one of my old contacts in finance Jacob had borrowed, heavily under my father's name, funneling money into reckless trades. Millions already bleeding away. The golden child wasn't golden, he was decaying from within. I did not confront him. I did not run to my parents. Why warn the wolves when you can lead them to their own trap? I began, collecting evidence quietly. Bank statements, trade receipts, emails he'd carelessly left logged in every blunder, every reckless gamble. I archived it meticulously. Meanwhile, I maintained my disguise. The quiet failed sibling, the one who couldn't manage their own life. I let them persist in their misconception of my weakness. It made the silence sharper when I made my move. Step 1. I contacted grandmother, not with anger, but with the unvarnished truth. She always watched in silence, allowing the family war to play out like a staged drama, but I knew something others didn't. Her will wasn't tied to my parents' decisions. She controlled her own immense fortune, and she despised arrogance. I handed her the evidence, not with pleading, but with surgical precision: Jacob's debts, his forged signatures, his collapsing investments. She said nothing for a long time, then she gave a single nod. One knew I had her. Step 2. I secured my future. I met with her attorney, drew up the necessary documents, structured my business to be acquisition ready. When the time came, I wouldn't just be defended, I'd be elevated. Which brings us back to that night, the party, the announcement, my parents' cruelty, and my grandmother rising slowly with her cane, the room falling into a dead silence around her. "My son, my daughter-in-law," she said, staring at my parents with ice in her eyes, "you may give your wealth to Jacob. That is your choice. But as for my estate," she paused, letting the silence thicken until even Jacob shifted uncomfortably, "it goes entirely to Ryan." The room froze. A collective intake of breath. My mother's hand tightened around her wine glass until it cracked. Jacob's face flushed crimson, panic flickering in his eyes. And then, like a perfect encore, my grandmother turned to him. "I know what you've done with the money, the debts, the fraud, the shame you've hidden. It ends tonight." A wave of murmurs swept through the crowd. Jacob stammered, "That's not," but his fiancée stepped back, face pale. She already knew my parents sputtered, but it was a futile attempt. Grandmother had spoken, and in that moment, the very edifice of their favoritism crumbled. Later, I stood alone on the balcony, the noise of the party fading behind me. I looked out at the night sky, the city lights twinkling with promises. Almost 15 years of being overlooked, dismissed, humiliated, gone with a single revelation. My parents gave Jacob everything, thinking he was their legacy, but in truth, their legacy was me, the child they tried to erase, who rose sharper because of it. I didn't need their approval. I never did. When grandmother's fortune transferred, my business would expand stronger than ever, and Jacob, he would be consumed by the wreckage he had wrought. I sipped my drink calm. They called me a failure.